Welcome to Setting the Table, the Chefs of Best Fest. Today, I'm sitting down with Chef Joel Hassanali of the Salted Edge. His story starts in Trinidad and Tobago, shaped by those early flavors, by the kitchens he grew up around, and by the journey that carried him from the Caribbean to the United States. Chef Joel brings all of that onto the plate in a way that still feels deeply personal. Well, Chef, welcome to Best Fest, my brother.
Thank you,
For
brother.
joining us and letting us take over your restaurant for the day and just have some good conversations.
Yeah. You finally got me to do this.
I finally did. We had talked about doing this and sitting down and talking because most of the time when we're working, it's like we need this, and this. It's never like we can have a conversation about anything and really dig into the nitty gritty, man. But before we get started, tell me your name and where you're from.
So name is Joel Hassanali and from Trinidad and Tobago originally.
Yeah, and I've heard some crazy stories about you growing up in Trinidad.
Oh, yeah.
Like you've talked about your father and like how you used to trap ducks in the garage. What was it like growing up in Trinidad and Tobago?
I mean, it was great, man. Trinidad and Tobago is just it's life, It's just growing up with my mom and dad and family there, learning our culture, right? Because a lot of people don't realize that Trinidad has this wide span of different cultures and ethnicity in Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah.
So growing up was more of carefree, man.
Yeah.
More of carefree, having a good time, going to school, getting your education, but then coming home just like any other family. I had chores to do, before I go to school and after.
Yeah.
But just enjoying a good time.
Yeah. So tell me, I've always heard about your mother's cooking.
Okay.
I have yet to try it, but your mother's cooking seems to what you're doing in all of your projects.
Yeah.
What was food like growing up?
Man, food growing up in Trinidad, especially with my mom. So my mom and dad always cook. I mean, believe it or not, a lot of the things I do is for my mom, but my dad was the cook.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
He's the one that, with growing up in Trinidad, you don't need a special occasion to actually throw down and cook some food.
Yeah.
Right?
This is Monday night.
This is Monday nights. My mom is always in the kitchen, cooking. My dad normally would cook on weekends. Right? He would cook on weekends, curry goat, curry duck, all of that stuff.
Those
My
are the ducks
mom, exactly, trapped the ducks in the garage, But my mom, she would normally cook supper. It's normally traditional, whereas we call it roti. So starter roti with some potatoes and salt cod, and different things like that. So it was just awesome, having my mom just sit down and watch her cook, enjoy, sit down as a family. It was good stuff.
Is there a flavor or spice or anything that like takes you back to your childhood?
Curry.
Curry all the way.
Curry, man.
Now, there's different kinds of curry, though.
There is different kinds of curry.
So what kind of curry are we talking?
So Trinidad is that yellow curry, right? You have different Thai curry, but it's just a yellow curry, right? And it's normally a powder form.
Yeah.
Like here in the U.S., there's a lot of like curry paste. No, this is a powder form that they grind, right? And it's a yellow curry. And it's very flavorful, very pungent. Like, I mean, you walk through the house and you're like, all right, yep,
I got
having
curry
for dinner. Yep.
Yeah. So your mother and your relationship in the kitchen, was it more of like, I want to teach you this because I want you to know how to eat, or I want to teach you this because I want to teach you about our culture? Like, what was the story behind, your mother and father teaching you about cooking?
I think more of it is it was me personally, because I have siblings who didn't really care about the kitchen, but I was always that kid that I'm in the kitchen. Whether they're cooking something, I want to grab a knife and help. That was just, I don't know, as an early age, I just gravitate to food, and always trying to be in the kitchen. I remember I burned myself at a really early age because my parents wasn't home, and I went on there and turned on the stove. My brother was upstairs in his room, and I'm trying to cook some stuff, and I learned.
Found out quick.
Yeah,
Found out
real
quick.
fast.
Yeah. So when you were a kid, were you the main one? Like, so your mom and dad are out working. Are you the one preparing the food for your brothers and sisters in the house? Or like, are you just cooking for yourself? Like, did it just bring you love to be in the kitchen?
Well, I think more of cooking for myself and experimenting with stuff.
Yeah.
But believe it or not, we did have someone we would call a nanny.
Okay. Yeah.
More.
Y'all were big balling in Trinidad then.
You know what? My parents were well off in a sense. My parents always had different businesses in Trinidad. So while we're at school, we'll have someone at home will make lunch or dinner from my brother and I, and then when my mom get home, they would cook. But normally I'll find myself in the kitchen just cooking. But yeah, it was just a good time. But I always just try to like find myself, what can I make today?
Yeah.
Like we have something called fry bake, and it's literally it's a flour dough that just simply flour, water, salt, a little bit of yeast, whatever. You roll it out into into a dough form flat, cut it into some triangles, and you just fry it, pan fry it in oil. It puffs up nicely. You open it up, put a slice of cheese and butter.
Ooh.
Man,
And you good to go.
It's good to go.
So I got a question. Because you were my biggest influence in the culinary industry, and I find out something new about you damn near every time I talk to you. First off, what is the M&M delight?
Okay.
Tell me about that. I don't know.
So like I said, parents had different businesses in Trinidad, and one of them, my dad, he's just that guy out of the whim. He wanted to open up a restaurant.
Yeah.
You know, he found this spot and he thinks it would be ideal for a restaurant. So M&M stands for Merlin and Margaret, which is my mom and dad names.
Yeah.
In Trinidad, you know, my dad wasn't that creative with different things, so he went M&M and, you know, pretty much Kitchen and Delight.
Yeah.
You know, so that was our restaurant. And
so you just gonna spring that on me? I never knew your parents had a restaurant. Yeah. That's crazy. I didn't know
that's where I started. So it's
okay.
So in our restaurant we had this this chef called Rafik.
Okay.
You know, my parents, like, it's one of the business they had was a travel agency, and they would go to different countries and stuff. And they met this guy in Venezuela. My dad pretty much brought this guy back home, right, with his wife and his kid, and had a room and everything for an apartment in the basement of our house.
Yeah.
Right. And every day after school, when my uncle would pick us up, we had a choice to where we wanted to go. You know, either we go to the office, sit there and wait until our parents were done. Well, I always choose to go to the restaurant, you know, where I would just sit and watch this dude do his thing. You know, I had a little stool that I would sit right in the kitchen just watching him cook, you know, and I was fascinated with him using, and we call it in Trinidad, you know, the Chinese chopper. So this big knife, and he'd just be like chopping his vegetables, and I'd just be amazed and watching, and try to go home and try to do this.
Yeah, and you still got all your fingers, so I mean,
yeah.
Man, so tell me more about this guy, Rafiki? Rafik. Okay, yeah. Tell me more about him and you guys' relationship.
You know, you said people have mentors. I won't at that time at an early age, because this was like age 9 and 10 before I came to the States. So didn't really know what mentor is. I won't say it's mentor. Now I sit back and like, wow, he's someone I looked up to. But he was just a cool guy in the sense of I was always welcome in the kitchen, and he would just cook with me. He was like, Joel, come in, I'll stand next to him, and he's with his walk, because in Trinidad there's a lot of Chinese food too. Like I said, there's so much different ethnicity of food. So you'll be like in the walk, you know, cooking some chow mein, you know, or some fried rice, cooking some curry and this and that. And I would just sit back and watch. Ask some dumb questions as a kid, but always there trying to taste, even sticking my finger in stuff, and he's like, "Hey, you can't do that," you know.
Somebody's gonna eat this.
Yeah, you know. But just being around him and learning, and not only that too. Like when he gets home, because like I said, he lived in the same house we did. He would come sit and he'll cook, and here am I'm there with him. Yeah, you know, working on things.
Yeah. So, at what age did cooking really become something for you? I mean, you've talked about it being a part of your life, your whole life. Was there like a certain age where like, or a certain dish or something that happened in the kitchen and you're like, this is really going to become something? I know, like it's in me, not on me.
Right. When I moved to the States, so I moved here at age 11.
Okay.
And believe it or not, my first catering, right, ever was at age 12. No, 13.
By yourself?
13. By myself. I'll never forget it. My uncle, because when I moved to the States, I went to DC right away and lived with my uncle. All right, my parents and brother and everyone, they stayed behind. I was here first. And I would just cook for my uncle. My uncle was working all the time. My aunt was working. I would get home before everyone else. I would just cook. Yeah. And his wife, I think his sister, right? They came over one day and I was cooking and she was getting married. It was a nice little family wedding, right?
So this is your first catering order, was a family wedding?
Family wedding.
Okay.
You know, for probably about 50 people. It was just small. But it was a buffet style.
Yeah, 50 people, that's not small.
You know,
for your first one.
My uncle helped me in the kitchen, but I remember doing simple things like I remember doing baked chicken, you know, legs and thigh, a little bit of, you know, Caribbean spice in there, a little bit of barbecue sauce. At that time, I was experimenting. So I was just throwing stuff together. Yeah. You know, knowing what I've learned from my parents and just throwing flavors in there. But I remember I knocked it out the park, you know, at an early age. And that's when I was like, man, I can do this. Yeah. You know, I can do this. So, yeah.
So when you moved from Trinidad to DC, was it a culture shock? Were you more like, all right, I'm ready for this new opportunity? Or you're like, I want to go back home?
man,
Maybe it was a little bit of
it's
both.
a little bit of both. So like I was happy with opportunity, right? So I'm coming from, like I said, Trinidadian life. I was saying like it was easy, it was good. Where I'm going to, and let's say my parents wasn't strict, but I'm going to my uncle's home where he's like,
Military.
you got a curfew.
Yeah.
You know, you got to be inside by this time, whatever. And I'm like, man, this is not what I signed up
Yeah.
for, you know?
Yeah.
But they're all about education. My uncle was always trying to teach me like things doesn't come easy to you, you know. So it was good, but I remember when my parents, a year and a half later, my parents moved to the States and they went to New York.
Yeah.
And man, I was like, yeah, I wanna go back.
Yeah, I want to go back.
Yeah,
home.
I want to go with my parents. So yeah, so I finished my junior and senior in high school in New York.
Mhm. And New York is the hustle capital of the world.
Oh yeah.
So when you got out there, what was it like finding your footsteps in like the culinary industry? I mean, you really made a mark in New York City.
Yeah. So the thing about with New York, especially where I grew up and where we lived in Queens, New York, right, Richmond Hill. I mean, we lived in 132nd Street, 2 blocks away from Liberty, which is the main street. You walk out there, and all you're seeing is restaurants of all different types. You know, a lot of Caribbean restaurants. That's where a lot of people from the Caribbean, when they move to New York, they gravitate towards Jamaica, Queens,
Yeah, Jamaica Queens.
or Brooklyn or Richmond Hill, because that's where all the Caribbean people, that's their first stop before they actually venture out in the U.S.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just a bunch of Caribbean food. So you kind of felt right at home.
Okay.
Right. But then you do other things. Like I said, my first job was with McDonald's and then a pizzeria.
What?
Yeah. First job, McDonald's.
Okay. 'Cause I can't tell you how many times I'm trying to bring this man some fast food. I'm not eating that.
McDonald's.
McDonald's. Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it was only because I could play basketball.
Okay.
So the GM of McDonald's wanted to. They had a summer league with basketball, so he would get these basketball players just to win the league. So I literally got a job without even interviewing. I didn't even want a job with McDonald's.
Yeah.
You know, but it's like, all right, hourly wage and you eat whenever you want. As a young kid, yeah. Now, McDonald's, no. But a young kid, oh yeah. I mean, free McDonald's to play ball.
Yeah.
I'm all for it.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel that. So, where in your journey did you say, I'm done with the free McDonald's and playing basketball, and like I'm gonna take this career as a chef and really make it something? Like, was there a certain kitchen that you were working in? Was there somebody that told you like, hey, you should take this more serious? Like, that's what you did for me.
Right.
You're like,
Yeah.
you should really do something with this. So what was that moment for you?
So that moment for me was, so after high school, right? I went to Hofstra University, right? And because my brother was pushing me, he's like, "Oh, you don't want to cook," even though my heart was telling me that's what I wanted. He's like, "There's no money in that. You need to go study, business science and whatever." I remember, man, I went to that school. I think within the first 3 months, not even last the whole semester, I was like, "This is not for me." I remember taking the Long Island Expressway train from Long Island all the way to Manhattan and went to registered culinary school. Came home and told my mom, "This is what I want to do," and she was all for it, So doing that after school, right, moved to Florida. And I think when I really got that shot and that chance, I used to work for the Dolphins and the Marlins, which you know that.
I know that story. Okay, we're not.
You know
we're not
that
exposing
part.
any new secrets.
So we moved into Florida, Miramar, Florida, and our neighbor, this guy was from Jamaica, and we just started talking. And I was like, man, I need a job. He's like, I work at the stadium for the Dolphins. I'll get you a job. So I went in there, applied, and I got a grill cook job at one of the stands, the concession stands.
Yeah.
I was happy, thrilled as hell because I got a job.
Uh-huh.
And then one of the managers just seen everything came so natural, so easy to me. He's like, you don't belong here. You need to go downstairs in the main kitchen.
Yeah.
So I went on to the main kitchen, and then I work under the chefs. So Chef Scott Wagner.
Okay.
Right? Chef Scott Wagner, young dude. He's like 6'5", right? He's from Chicago. And started working in the main kitchen with him. And the assistant chef that I was working under got cut.
Okay.
And he needed stitches. Now, when you go to the hospital and get stitches, company policies, you got to do drug test.
Yeah.
But he failed that drug test.
Oh damn. Yeah.
And the rest of history. So Chef Scott Wagner called me in his office, and he's like, you know what? We keep an eye on you. You're doing great stuff. He's like, how about we just have you take on the skybox
Yeah.
for the rest of the season and see how it goes. So I took on the skybox. Now the stadium had 34 skybox, and you're responsible for all skybox, right? And they're not just burgers and hot dogs. You're actually cooking some great meals.
Yeah.
So I did that for the rest of the season. And after that, called me to love. He's like, listen, he's like, we're not even gonna look for another chef. We're gonna make you the chef. And I just became the chef,
Right.
you know, and I worked with him 3.5 years, and that's when I learned from him. He took me under his wing. He's the one like who gave me my first shot.
Yeah.
You know, he seen something in me, give me my first shot, and man, I learned so much from him. We still in contact up to this day because he has a couple restaurants in Chicago. He left the company and stuff like that, but it was really cool working for the Dolphins, the Marlins, get to experience the College World Series with the Marlins, hang out with football players. You know, it was
So
a
you were,
good
and
time.
how old were you when you were doing this though? You were pretty young, right?
I was pretty young.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, what, after college, so I was about 19.
Yeah, that is insane. 19
19.
years old.
Yeah.
Head
so
chef for the Dolphins and the Marlins. That's
at
crazy.
20 is when I got the position, but I started, I was at 19. At age 20 is when I got the position. I just, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I know your love in the kitchen, your passion in the kitchen, the cuisine you are never going to disrespect this cuisine in front of me is French cooking.
Mhm.
How do you go from, cooking more upper scale meals for, the Dolphins, the Marlins, to transitioning over to the creme de la creme of cuisine being French cooking?
All right. Well, so part of it, what I did miss out after culinary school, I spent a couple of time in Paris, right? Spent like 2 months in there, right? Just to do internship. But where I really got deep into it is Fisher Island in Miami, Florida. So one of my goals were, and I always try to tell, and I think I told you this, one of my goals was always try to get experience from everywhere I can and really kind of identify who I am as a chef and which direction I want to go in.
Yeah.
So working for the Dolphins and the Marlins was fine, but that was all bulk catering, cooking. So I wanted to do something else. So I went to Fisher Island, interviewed for this job, and got the job working in the main mansion at Fisher Island. Okay. And I mean, Chef Pierre, that dude wasn't no joke. Yeah. But I learned so much from him because he was so passionate. I always tell people the story, like, you prep. Everyone was in charge of their station, right? So it's not like you have a prep team. No, it's like you're the line cook. You come in, you prep, you get ready for service. I remember he would come through the line, spoons out, and he's tasting everyone's station and sauces and stuff like that. And I remember this one sauce I made, forgot to put the salt and the pepper. Okay. And he was like old school French, right? He really tasted. And he's like, you forget the salt and the pepper. And he took that sauce and poured it on the ground next to my foot. And I had to start over. And what do? You said,
yes, chef.
Exactly. Yes, chef. And made it over again. Never forget salt and pepper ever again.
That was the lesson. That was the lesson.
It took everything out of me that day. And I remember, like when you're so angry and mad, and I was that young, right? I remember I walked outside. And Fish Island is an island where it's surrounded by water. You either get there by the ferry or helicopter. Yeah. And I remember I walked out, and man, my eyes were just like full of tears because I wanted to quit. Yeah. I'm like, F you, dude. Yeah. But then I was like, you know what? I know this is what I want to do. And I was learning a lot, So went back in there like a big boy, put on that apron.
Made the sauce again. And you remember the salt and pepper. That's funny. So I've had the pleasure of working with you here at Salted Edge. And I remember when you would do family meal in particular, you never did anything that we would traditionally do at the restaurant. Whereas I've always seen in the past other people that are like, we just find something at the restaurant that we have, and then that's your meal. You get an employee meal, you get half off. And but you always cooked from like your home. Mm-hmm. What are things that people don't know about you in the realm of Salted Edge? Like what you do as a chef, So whereas you got to cater to the guests that come in here and serve them the things that they're traditional. What are things that people don't know about your culinary style?
I mean, my culinary style, man, it's still at heart is from where I grew up in the Caribbean, right? So my style is literally taking places that I travel, chefs that work under, and making it my own. I mean, every dish that, not just say every dish, but most of my dish, you would find some kind of Caribbean element or flavor in there, right? Especially here at Salted Edge, right? Pivot is a little different, but especially on Salted Edge, I always try to I think, and this is funny, it's like last year, Christmas, my brother and my son, and my brother's younger than me, but sometimes he's like my dad.
Yeah.
You know, and we're just talking about different things I was doing or whatever, and they both look at me. It was like, listen, it's like, you can't forget where you're from.
Yeah.
You know, you can't forget what mom and dad taught you. You know, you always got that will never leave you. So you don't never forget that. You know, and I had to sit back and be like, you know what? I got to stay true to myself.
Yeah.
You know, and that's one of the things that I want people to experience when they come to my restaurant. Right? Is when they taste something, they can taste a little bit of me. And you know, at first was skeptical at it, right? Because here, new into Omaha, you know, we're out in West Shores, you know, West Omaha. So it's kind of like, how much of a risk do I want to take with putting my flavors into?
And now you're putting a whole fish on a plate.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, so I went from, all right, we'll just kind of do my thing,
Yeah.
modern American, but now that comfortable and people, you know, I know my identity and people know who we are.
Yeah.
Now it's just sprinkling little things here and there, and people actually accept it. And I think that was the biggest thing for me. Would they accept it?
Yeah.
Right.
You gotta teach them. That's what you always told
You
me.
know,
You gotta teach
exactly. So it's like now it's not. I'm not cooking for them anymore,
them.
right? I'm cooking for me in the sense of I am going to teach your palate, right? Expand your palate to different flavors, right? Can't just be like sticking the steak in. All I hear is like chef, steak and potato, Omaha,
Right.
corn. And I was like, so now in the restaurant, I told the server, I was like, listen, it's our job to educate the staff.
Yep.
I mean, sorry, educate the guests, right? So this is why we're, you know, doing some different things.
Yeah, no. Well, and for Best Fest, we like our goal and why every chef was strategically picked is so that they can go and represent their culture
Right.
and on full display. You know, we don't want, and I know you. I know how you get down. Like you want your food to be sexy.
Yeah.
And for Best Fest, like I know the people that are gonna dine with you are gonna have an experience, and I want them to really, really experience you.
Right.
But in that, what do you want people to walk away from? Like when they're done dining with you, they've enjoyed their food. What feeling do you want them to feel? Like what understanding of you as a chef do you want them to have?
Well, one, knowing that one, I'm cooking with my heart,
Mhm.
right? But two, understand, I wanted that wow factor. Like the word we made up here, woofy woofy.
Wolfie, no,
You
no,
know?
don't say we. That was you. That was you. We all
You
still
know,
know what it means.
You know, but I want them to understand, like, they got to walk away like, holy crap. You know, we haven't tasted anything like this here in Omaha,
Yeah.
right? And like something like you brought up with family meal, like, yeah, you're right. It was always something from my culture. I wanted you guys to experience that,
Yeah.
right? Like you and I would cook down and throw down, you know, jerk chicken, curry chicken, and then
You would just make
then I
stuff
would-
up and
yeah.
like, go home and smoke this and bring
You
it back
know,
tomorrow.
Oh, you know, I'll tell you, I was like, man, mom would be proud, you
Yeah.
know, when I taste it.
Yeah.
So that's what I want people to walk away with because, you know, I think that's what's missing here in Omaha. We don't really have like true Caribbean cooking in Omaha.
Yeah.
So I think sharing a little bit of me and where I'm from and just have them taste the different flavors. And I know people, I mean, we have a lot of Indian restaurants here, but it's not the same as Trinidad, right?
Yeah.
Curry and stuff like that. So just have them walk away like, I want them to walk away with that memory of that day. Like, wow, they need to remember my name. Like,
Yeah.
man, all right, Chef Joel
He
stuck his
did
foot
that.
in me.
Yeah, both feet.
You know, both feet.
So with all your talents though, and I mean your resume is endless, how did you find yourself in Omaha, Nebraska though?
Man, do you really want to know?
Yes, I really want to know. Like you
Uh,
can be on any platform in any big city, even out of the country.
Right. So, man, well, there's a long version and a short version. I don't know which one you want.
I want the medium
Well, I'll
version.
give you the medium version.
Okay.
So, with moving here to Omaha, this was 2014, right? My dad had just passed away, and my mom, all her brothers and sisters were in Texas.
Okay.
And you know, I was like, Mom, you just need to move closer to family. I was like, sell the house, move. And I was like, if you move, I'll try to find a job. So when I interviewed with Crave, they will open up a Crave, which you know Crave in Midtown here. They will open up a Crave in Austin, Texas. So I interviewed for the job, went to Minneapolis for my final interview, and they made me an offer.
Yeah.
Right. It was like, oh yeah, they're like, we want you, but. And I was like, okay, what's the but?
Uh-huh.
And it was like, well, we're gonna open 3 more in Texas, but this particular location, we want to go with a local chef. I get it, I understand. I know there was still a path for me to get to Texas. So I was
Yeah.
like, no problem. I was like, but we want you to move to Omaha, Nebraska.
You said it.
All right, I'm gonna be straight honest.
Okay.
Omaha, Nebraska, no in my radar, never even hold it. I was like, Omaha, where?
You
like-
just made that up, didn't you?
I was like, all right.
Yeah.
But for me, knowing that that was my path and I really wanted, you know, my mom to move there and so forth, I was like, all right, didn't even look up Omaha, didn't check. I was like, yep. All I know about Omaha, Cornhuskers.
Yeah.
Because I was a Florida State fan. And I think it was in 1997 or whatever, that championship in Miami, which I get to experience as a chef,
Yeah.
was Florida State versus Nebraska.
Gotcha.
So that's how I know about the Cornhuskers. That was it. I was like, all right, I'll go.
Yeah.
Remember, accept the job. And yeah, moved here.
Okay, but
Yeah.
now you weren't always here from 2014 to now.
Nope,
like
nope.
you
So
left and
I
came. See,
left.
you over here trying to leave the amazing parts out of the story.
Left in 2015.
Yeah. Because you were only here for a year.
Yeah, it was supposed to be for like 6 months.
Okay.
Ended up staying like a year and so forth. But yeah, moved. Didn't leave the company. They opened up Vegas and Maryland, so I went back to Maryland and worked there. Left the company, went to Chef Sherry Yard, worked with her for a while and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But there was an opportunity. A good friend of mine, the guy who actually placed in Crave as a GM, was a good friend of mine. And he called me up and he's like, hey, it's a great opportunity that I think you have a chance to come here and showcase what you can do and win a James Beard Award one day. And I was like, all right, I'm listening.
Yeah.
He's like, there's someone that's going to open up a steakhouse that's looking for chefs. And he wouldn't tell me who. And I was like, who? He's like, can't tell you who, you know? I was like, all right.
Yeah.
So I was like, why not? I was like, I have a great job, but I'm always listening. I'll listen.
Yeah.
So went through the whole process, interviewed. They had a total of they interviewed like a total of 85 chefs, and then they boiled it down to 5. Then they brought us here for the tasting. I remember he called me up and he's like, are you available this date? And I remember telling him clearly, I'm like, when is the tasting? And when are the chefs are going? And he's like, oh, 3 chefs already went. He's like, all right, I want to go last.
Yeah.
And I remember telling that specific. So came here. I remember it was, you know me, I was like, no, I want to go last.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why I want to go last.
Yeah.
So I remember they said they send the whole setup, 9 courses you had to cook for. And I remember doing, not 9, 7. I remember doing 9.
Yeah.
I wrote my menu based on 9. So I came here, did my thing, did the tasting, got the position.
Nice.
COVID actually hit right around that 2020 when I first moved back here. And I thought, I was like, man, do I even still have a job? I already put in my notice and everything. And man, they sent product to me in Chicago so I can start working with this.
Yeah.
Moved here. Obviously, COVID got strong. They decided not to open the steakhouse. And I just became that individual private chef.
Yeah.
And traveled with him, and wherever he went, I went, and just did my thing. And that was great at that time. But knowing who I am, I won't say getting bored, but cooking for 1 or 2 or maybe 4 individuals versus like really showcasing.
Using all your tools and everything.
And then had the opportunity with Greg Young. He was opening this. Didn't have a chef.
Yeah.
Obviously Greg, he knows his cars, loves food, but doesn't know the business. And we met, had lunch, and kick it off right then and there.
Yeah.
And even still, I wasn't really, committed of moving. So I was like, I'll do some consulting. So I'll work on the menu, design the restaurant, but knowing GY, he don't take no for an answer.
Yeah.
He
does not.
and offer me a partnership of the Lucky 11 group, and man, the rest is history. So yeah, so that's what brought me back. So now I'm here, and I would say this is home for now. I got probably one more good move in me.
You're gonna leave
I
again?
didn't say I'm gonna
That's
leave yet, though.
crazy.
Listen, man, Omaha is awesome, but man, this weather out here.
Here you go with your
You know,
island.
But
So what's one dish that you're looking to display at Best Fest? What's like one thing that you've been working on lately that you're like, I'm looking forward to really serving this to my guests.
it's I feel about my oxtail.
I know how you feel
You
about
know,
your oxtail.
we
You don't
cook
like
that.
anybody else's oxtail either.
Nah.
I know. I've tried making it. You're like, I'm not gonna eat it. I'm like, you ain't gonna try it. He's like, I can look at
I
it.
tried it.
Oh, okay.
Tried it,
Okay.
but no. Yeah. So working on a oxtail egg roll.
Okay.
Right. I figure, once again, trying to ease people into the world of oxtail and stuff. I figure egg roll, right? A nice little Napa cabbage, some sweet bell, some Fresno chilies, a little bit of Scotch bonnet. So I'm actually going to serve it with a Scotch bonnet aioli,
Okay. So
right?
heat. Yeah.
So you got a little heat.
Yeah.
But then we have a Caribbean honey dipping sauce. So you kind of get the best of both worlds, right? You get that nice creamy aioli with some heat, but then you get that nice little citrus honey glaze,
Yeah.
that you can dip it in.
Can you make this right now by chance?
Yeah, you can always throw it out. So yeah,
I think you can you run back there and make one for me?
yeah, I'll make one for you. We'll try it.
Okay, cool. Well, this is why you was gonna walk over here and set this on the table all nonchalant, and they said this is the first time he's plated it too. My goodness, yo. So should I try it raw first or should I dip it in the sauce?
Y'all go around, man. So a little bit in here. So you have the oxtail,
Mhm.
some, like I said, some napa cabbage, but then the spices that's in there, right? You got curry, a little bit of jerk seasoning in there, a little bit of habanero, dry habanero spice in there, and then that sauce is the Scotch bonnet that we just drizzled over the top.
Yeah.
Obviously, I love my cilantro. In Trinidad, we use a lot of cilantro, but it's called culantro.
Culantro, yeah. It's got like more of like a meaty depth to it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So.
Well, chef,
Yeah,
you never let me down before, so I don't think we're gonna start now, but
hope not. I know where it tastes from. I'm gonna let you taste it first.
No, I'm gonna go for a dip. I'm gonna go for a dip in the second one. I'll taste it without it.
All right, cheers, bro.
Cheers. It tastes like a full-on Caribbean meal.
That's what we call woofy woofy right
That
there.
is woofy woofy. The cabbage is perfect in there. It's still got a nice crunch to it.
You get some of that Scotch bonnet. It's not too overpowering. Nice lightning on the backside. Didn't want to go too heavy with it. We made this sauce this morning. And I remade it because I made it for like if people are back home.
Mhm.
When we tried it, I was like, whoa.
That's some heat.
I was like, all right, let's push that aside. Let's pull back on some of that Scotch bonnet.
I can't wait for people to try this at Best Fest. So, what made you say yes to being a part of this event? I mean, it's a Saturday. You're gonna be away from your restaurant. What made you like, I gotta do this. I gotta be here. Besides, of course, me asking you.
I mean, that's not true.
Yeah.
Text me that night. First of all, when you text me that night, and I said, yeah, I'll do it, I had no idea, right?
Yeah.
That you want to be my DJ. Because in my head, I was like, oh, I'll do this.
Yeah.
I got him my DJ, and he's like, oh, shit.
I can't do that.
I was like, man.
I got somebody that's gonna pair with you really nice though.
Okay.
Yeah. So June 20th, Best Fest is going to be the city's first chef-inspired food festival. And Chef Joel is one of our 10 chefs, and I'm telling you, if you want to experience something unlike anything else, you got to dine with this man. He's gonna have 20 different seats, 2 different dinner services, 10 slots each dinner service. Chef Joel, thank you for joining us today. I'm looking forward to it. You already know.
Thank you.